By now you would have heard of the term the Great Resignation. There are concerns that a record number of people may leave their job on the back of COVID-19 pandemic. You may even count among the many who have decided that perhaps it is time to change a career. If you have been wondering about this, then this program is for you, and IntoWork starts right now.
IntoWork, in association with IntoWork, the one-stop employment shop for all things work.
Hello and welcome back to IntoWork. I'm Mike Loader, and just a reminder that all the views and opinions in the following segment are of course our own. I can get into today's topic. And according to research conducted in 2021, more than 40% of the global workforce were considering leaving their employers. This means that there has been a shift in the balance of power from employer to employees. The transition from one career to the next has never been an easy one, especially for those who are further into their working lives. And what are the advantages for businesses taking on a mature apprentice or a trainee, and what supports are in place? Joining me to discuss these opinions when making a career change is Poul, the Group CEO of IntoWork Australia, a leading national provider of services that support economic and social participation through employment, training, recruitment and much more. Poul, thanks for joining me.
Great to be here, Mike.
So I've used that phrase, the Great Resignation. Yeah. It's popping up here and there. What changes have you seen within the employment industry? Because I've discussed it from a few different angles, but probably one of the more important angles is employment.
Well, it's a fascinating thing. I think that term really started to come out in 2020, 2021 and has been starting to build. Definitely overseas, it's taken traction. Here in Australia, we're starting to see some of those early signs of people, I think, having got past the worst of COVID, not saying we're over everything, of course, but that time where people have felt locked down, far more restricted, and are now starting to look around at what their other options are. So it's a fascinating mixture between people going, well, maybe I'll just do something short-term somewhere else, something a bit different, because I can see higher wages in certain sectors, and for other people really wanting to make a significant change. Given, I guess, the way that life has moved on in so many ways.
100%. And as I touched on in that intro about mature age apprentices or trainees, what are some of the advantages that you've come across? Because I understand they're a big part of the people who are going, I'd like a change.
Absolutely. And look, I think when you engage somebody who's a mature age person, you end up with someone who understands some of the routines of work. So not somebody who's brand new into the whole work routine, which I think really helps a lot as well. Somebody who's also more certain about what they would like to do with their life. They've had a chance to be able to try some different things out, and now is the time to embark on this new part of a career. People go through numerous careers over their life, so it's not the first time that they would have done it either. Chances are they would have tried it before. So it's those couple of key things that I think help people to feel more stable and more secure when they actually kick off. So the retention rate for someone, when say we place someone as an apprentice or a trainee within IntoWork, it tends to be someone who stays more glued on to their opportunity because they don't want to let it go. It's been a big choice to actually take on this career change.
We've all had a few jobs in my time. I've made a few coffees and cut a few lawns, that's for sure. So how can IntoWork help out? And are there any government incentives as well or programs in place that support businesses and individuals in relation to this?
There's probably two different sides of it. One is really about how do you support people around career transition. So there's a career transition assistance program. People can look that up online, and we provide some of that, as do other organisations. There's also a range of incentives around apprenticeships and traineeships that's often a really good pathway for people into employment as well. So there's a boosting apprenticeship commencement scheme. There's also state-based incentive schemes as well. If people contact us at IntoWork, we can give them those contact details as well about, we can give them the information, and we can give them further contact details if required too.
Great stuff. So for individuals looking to change their careers, they're going to have a very different set of questions, I suppose, as opposed to, say, a high school leaver, as you said earlier, people jumping in for start. Where can they get more information about these options if they're sort of in the younger crowd?
Yeah, so we've got career advisors and right across the country. And so those career advisors can actually sit down with you and to work through what have you done so far, what would you like to be doing, and what sort of things really spark your interest. Because making a career change is not something that you do lightly. As you say, we've all done different things at different points in time, but when you're going to go through a major change, particularly if you're going to spend the next couple of years studying, then you really want to know that it's the right thing. So we do various online tools, but also sit down and do face-to-face discussions with people, just to help people know that it's the right next step.
That sort of in-depth understanding of the people you're working with,
That's
finding
correct.
them the right spot. Poul, excellent.
That's correct.
All right, well, it's the perfect time to bring in our guest for today, and Youssef Youssef was was a crane operator in Toyota and decided that he wanted to go in a new direction. He swapped his spanner for a saw and started a carpentry apprenticeship when he finished that same time as his son, keeping it in the family of course. He is now a trainer with AGA Australia, which is part of the IntoWork group. Welcome to you, Youssef.
Hi there, how you going? Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, mate, thank you for coming along. Now, what made you to decide you wanted to make a change? You're someone who's obviously undertaken this journey, which is very exciting that we've been talking about. But what made you decide?
Back in 2017, Toyota decided to sort of leave the country and retrench most of the workers. So there was this government program called the Java that came out, and they helped retrenched automotive workers try and sort of sip into whatever sort of career that they wanted to enter. AGA and also IntoWork approached me and had a bit of a chat. They were very supportive in regards to sort of sipping into something, maybe into like an apprenticeship. It was very nerve-wracking. I imagine an older person having having a family. I've got 2 boys of my own. Trying to sip into that was a very hard choice, but I thought to myself, well, all my life I always wanted to be something in regards to like a tradie or a plumber, and I really wanted to get into something like that. I thought, you know what, try and get into carpentry and see how I go from there, and the support was pretty good.
Fantastic. So you're a tactile individual, you like working with your hands, creative type. What are some of the biggest challenges that you faced when making that career transition? You touched on a few of them there with your sons and family and such.
Yeah. I just started building a house myself. I've got my parents as well who are pensioners, and I basically support them myself as well. And it was a massive change because, as everyone knows, I mean, being an apprentice, the wage is a bit lower, and I had to sort of take that into factor. At the same time as well, being an older apprentice or an older person as well, getting into apprenticeship it has its challenges, and so I had to sort of like nip it in the bud. But at the same time, I had so much support with IntoWork and AGA as well, and it was a program to get into.
Well, Youssef, just on that, how did AGA and IntoWork as well support you in making the change? What were some of the things they did to help out?
They gave me a lot of support in regards to. They said, look, Youssef, you can also, if you're good enough, you can sort of get it done, and you can get back into the workforce, within a few years if it's possible. And I thank God for that, because 2.5 years later, I completed my apprenticeship. It was really good. It was really good. I absolutely love the support here. Honestly, it's really, really good. It really is.
So I guess my next question is, what advice would you give to people that want to change their career? As you said, it's it's a bit nerve-wracking, and maybe there's people sitting there going, don't know if I can do it, pull the plug on it, etc. What advice would you give?
Look, I can almost say, look, go for it. Really, like you have government support, you have support from IntoWork, you have support from AGA. I don't even know. I can't praise them enough. Really, they're awesome. During my year, I looked at the training program, looked at the trainers. That inspired me to want to be a trainer and also give what I've been given, and inspire young adults and students to sort of get into it, and even older, the older people like myself as well, who want to get into an apprenticeship. Go for it. I mean, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Definitely is.
Yeah, and don't sit idly by, I think, is something we've also talked about on the program before.
Never give up.
Take the
Definitely.
chance. Jump right in. Youssef Patel, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the program today and sharing your insight with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Youssef. I mean, it's fascinating, Mike, because some of the different components that Youssef is talking about there is, first of all, you have the career advice to determine what sort of pathway, and then you organise trainers. Well, we organise trainers to be able to link in to provide the right type of training. Some of the training's on the ground, out there in the field.
Perfect.
Some of it's in a classroom, so it's a mixture, of course. But then it's also organising the government incentives to be able to support the business. There's also some support that goes to the individual. So if somebody is about, and like in Youssef's case, when you're a bit older, you've got these other commitments as well. So how do you actually juggle those sort of commitments? And so how do we support you with that? We also do a lot of mentoring with apprentices and trainees out there in the field, because often you just need that extra person to talk with, really.
Yeah.
Because if you're just focusing around just going to work, doing your thing and going back home again, life has changed so much when you embark on a new career. So sometimes it's helpful to be able to sit down and go, hey, what do I do in this circumstance? How do I cope with a boss who's now talking about these sorts of things which you haven't had before? So those sort of additional supports is really what helps us to have a higher retention rate amongst people, which is exciting. So it's a wonderful story, and there's numerous others like that, but to be able to see that sort of career change happening and setting ourselves up for the future.
Yeah, Youssef is a great example of all the things you've just said. So Paul, thank you for joining me on the program as well, as always.
Thanks, Mike.
And thank you to all of you out there in audience land. And of course, head to tickeroriginals.co for more content such as this. We cover a myriad of topics. I'm Mike Loader. Be well. I'll see you soon.